Molo Sanbonani, hello, how's it? Good day. Welcome to the Vuka Nazo Show. My name is Sihle Ngobese, aka Big Daddy Liberty. Remember, whether you're watching this simulcast on Facebook or YouTube, do me a favor, hit that like button right now. If it is on YouTube, then we'll subscribe to the show and hit that bell notification. Help me reach my goal of 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Guys, remember, we have a website. Find us, and you can also support us financially there by going to BigDaddyLiberty.com. Now, with that being said, enough of the jibber jabber. Let's get straight into the news. Ho! It is spicing up indeed, with the Democratic Alliance applying the pressure to a South African government which is desperately hoping that no one will notice that Vladimir Putin will be in the country in August. You remember, of course, Putin has been invited by the South African government and, of course, the BRICS organization, that's Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, to what will be a summit in August this year. Now, you remember, Vladimir Putin actually has a warrant of arrest out against him from the International Criminal Court. South Africa is a signatory of the ICC via the Rome Statute and is expected to arrest Putin if he were to set foot here in South Africa. The latest, of course, now being the Department of International Relations and Cooperation preemptively saying, oh, we're giving everybody diplomatic immunity.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Everybody. This is not about Putin. It's about everybody. Yeah, that's what it's all about. But nonetheless, the DA not necessarily falling for this and applying the pressure, basically saying if Putin lands in this country, he will be arrested, and they're going to court to seek that, if you will, declaratory, order. Now, the DA, as I said, has launched court papers at the Gauteng High Court requesting a declaratory order to the effect that if Vladimir Putin arrives in South Africa to attend the BRICS Summit in August, upon request of the ICC, that South Africa should arrest Putin. Now, let me read from their statement where they basically say the following. This preemptory court action aims to ensure that South Africa upholds its obligations in terms of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court and the implementation of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court Act 27 of 2002. Now, that's a South African piece of legislation which was enacting the ICC, us being a signatory of the ICC via the Rome Statute. Now, they go on to say this. President Putin is accused by the ICC of being responsible for the war crimes of unlawful deportation of children and the unlawful transfer of children from occupied areas of the Ukraine to the Russian Federation, and Articles 8 2a Roman numeral 7 and 8 2b Roman numeral 8 of the Rome Statute. End of quote. Now, you're probably wondering, why is the DA heading to court ahead of the BRICS Summit in August? Well, you remember, of course, a certain al-Bashir, that's right, the despot and dictator of the Sudan, that war criminal from that part of the world, where he at one stage was in South Africa, and he also had a ICC warrant of arrest against him, to which the South African government pretended for a second that they didn't know where he was in the country, for him to then slip out of the country, even as various groupings were in court demanding that Bashir be arrested in the country. I think that debacle is what the DA is trying to avoid this time by going to the courts ahead of time and getting legal certainty on this matter, that if Putin arrives, he literally be behind bars in this country. That'd be a funny sight. President Putin in orange overalls, you know, with some homie gang boss in the back saying, Papa, wach for your Putin. But nonetheless, jokes aside, now, the legal jargon aside of that press release, the DA has come out to explain a little better as to what it means by this and what it wants from this declaratory order. Here's Advocate Glynis Breitenbach, a DA member of Parliament, speaking to the SABC, basically explaining why they've gone to court.
The al-Bashir debacle taught us a lot. That's why, you know, we're going to court with a peremptory action. We're applying for a declaratory order so that, you know, there will be legal certainty as to what the obligations of the South African government are with regards to the attendance of Putin at the BRICS Summit, you know, as opposed to their obligations in terms of our international obligations and our obligations in terms of our own domestic law. So the declarator will hopefully bring certainty to that position. The government took quite a bashing over their shameful actions with regards to al-Bashir, and so we're hoping that there won't be a repetition. Certainly, if there's a declarator in place and the court has set out very clearly what their obligations are, it will be very difficult for the government then to simply thumb their nose at those obligations. We already know that there's a warrant issued by the International Criminal Court for Putin's arrest. And if he comes to South Africa and there's a request to detain him and hand him over, it will be very hard for the government to refuse that in the face of a pre-existing declarator.
Yep, again, you're hearing it from the horse's mouth, the DA not mincing its words on this regard, placing a lot of pressure on this an ANC government which is desperate for this BRICS Summit to go ahead with Putin in the country. And again, there are criticisms, though, that must be leveled against the ICC, one of which is often criticism you'll hear that it's inconsistent and there's a bit of hypocrisy in who it chooses to go after versus who it doesn't, avoiding Western leaders who may commit atrocities in order to target other, often African countries or developing nations like Russia. This question was put to Breitenbach about the hypocrisy of the ICC, and this is what she said.
But the view of the Democratic Alliance is simply this, that that type of perception cannot be addressed from outside of the ICC. So there's no point in withdrawing from the Rome Statute and then, from outside trying to throw rocks in. While we are founding members and while we have domesticated it and while we have a certain amount of standing in that community, we should engage with the ICC and discuss our concerns, and point out to them that there's a view that they don't act even-handedly, and try very hard to work on that image of the ICC, try very hard to place pressure when necessary so that a more even-handed approach is adopted.
Again, as I conclude, the issue here becomes this, that this issue isn't just a legal one, it isn't just a political one, it affects all aspects of South African lives, including the economy. The Rand right now is taking a pummeling on international markets and may even see record lows against other currencies. We may see a Rand hit the 20 Rand mark to the dollar, unprecedented levels, which of course will impact on us, ordinary citizens. The cost of things will become more expensive. And why? Because of the dilly-dallying bad policy by ANC politicians on this particular matter. The world is watching, and this will have implications for us as South Africans. All right, that's it for this episode of Vuka Nazo. Please, hey, let me know what you think about this particular matter. Leave a comment, whether you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube. The most important thing you can do is to, yes, hit that like button, but more importantly, share the stream. Please share it widely. With that being said, if you're looking to support the work that we're doing here, and it's the advocacy work in particular, then please consider contributing to the show. How do you do that? Find a payment method that suits you at our website. That's at bigdaddyliberty.com. Now, if you like any of the stories that we covered here, the links are in the descriptor. With that being said, thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next episode of the Vuka Nazo Show.